Story number 1. Boyfriend, 25M, became disabled and I, 25F, want to break up but I'd feel like a terrible person. How do I handle this? I, 25F, have been with my boyfriend, 25M, since high school. Unfortunately, he got into a car crash and became disabled below his waist. I wished to be by his side during his recovery. Disabilities have never been a deal breaker for me, and I loved him. So while this is going to be a struggle at first, I believed that we'd be able to overcome this. I tried to participate in his recovery by being there with and for him during physical therapy. I moved into his parents' house to help his parents to take care of him because he is unable to do many tasks without assistance. My job is very close to their parents' place, and my manager allows me to clock out in case my BF's parents need my help with things like getting my boyfriend to the hospital and such. But my boyfriend just completely shut down. I understand that this is a life-changing injury, and at such a young age this is absolutely devastating, but he just doesn't want me anywhere near him. I tried to take him out to concerts, plays, organize picnics, trips, just make him believe that his life didn't end with his injury and he is capable of living a fulfilling life. But he was just indifferent to it all. Therapy doesn't seem to help him because he still seems to be completely dissociated from everything. I couldn't see him like this anymore and I demanded to tell me everything that's on his mind. And he just said that he is angry about everything, that he feels like I'm here only out of moral obligation, that he doesn't feel like a proper boyfriend because he can't do anything for himself, that he wants to be a real man but he isn't even able to make love to me anymore, etc. I tried to be empathetic and told him that if I've been here for this long after the accident, it's obviously not an issue to me because I still love him. He just scoffed, and it seemed like he didn't believe me. Now it's come to a point where he's throwing things at me demanding me to leave the room. He's ignoring me, and when he's not, he insults me. He's even throwing the food I bring him on the floor like a child. He became emotionally abusive, and I'd be lying if I said that I still love him. I genuinely wanted to be there for him because I've seen stories where people after intense physical therapy manage to get back on their feet and walk with some assistance, and I believed that he might be able to do it too. I believe that miracles exist, and the human body is a fascinating thing. Maybe he'd be able to walk again. He just needed a lot of work and faith in himself. But he became so nasty, rude, hurtful that, I don't know, I think I just fell out of love with him. I approached his mom and told her that I feel like I probably don't love him anymore because he's been so hurtful towards me for 2+ years now, and I just can't endure it anymore. I don't deserve this. His mom immediately got defensive, saying that he suffered a great psychological trauma after the accident, and it's normal for him to be so depressed. I completely understand that, but it doesn't give him a green light to be so hurtful towards people who are actually trying to help him. His mom asked me to stay because my boyfriend needs my support, but judging from his behavior, he doesn't want or need me at all. Maybe he's doing it on purpose to push me away, but at this point I don't care anymore. I can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. I'm tired. I tried for a long time. He shut me out. I want to break up with him, but I'd feel like an absolute trash human being for leaving a person behind when they need me the most. But at the same time, I can't endure this anymore. I want to leave, but I don't want to be that person, if you know what I mean. I am at a loss. I need advice. Story number 2. My boyfriend, 26M, is in a mood because I, 21F, had a pizza after a night out. Do you see where he is coming from? For context, I am not a big girl. I am just a normal weight. I swim about 4 times a week, but I am a bit of a foodie. I have a food Instagram account, and I like to go out for food. I probably go out for lunch or dinner weekly. I don't count calories, and I am not strict with my diet. Last night, my boyfriend and I went out with his friends, and I came home early since we had an early train to catch in the morning. I got a pizza on my way home. I was a bit drunk and thought it would soak up some of the alcohol, and I'd feel better in the morning. I don't go out drinking really regularly, by the way, so this isn't something that happens every week, but I normally will get a pizza after a night out. I ate probably just over half the pizza, and I shared some with a girl I met on the street. My boyfriend got in about an hour after me, and then this morning, he saw the pizza box. He was in a mood about it all morning, telling me he tries hard to be attractive for me, and it seems like I don't care at all. He goes to the gym most days, a similar frequency to how often I swim, and we also sometimes play badminton together. He isn't ripped or anything. He's a normal weight. I said, "Do you find me unattractive how I am?" He said no, he finds me attractive. We have very regular sex daily. He wants me to think about the long term. I said I would understand if he wasn't happy with how I look now. I feel like I do keep myself in shape by swimming, but I don't want to be so obsessive about what I eat. He is very conscious about what he eats. That's it really. Am I missing something, or should he get off my back? ETA, I have spoken with him, and I think it is definitely projection. He told me he wanted a kebab on the way home last night and didn't get one because he would feel too guilty about it. So to see me get a pizza so carefree when he feels like he can't do the same thing made him jealous. Of course it doesn't excuse his behavior, and he has been apologizing all day. I have told him if anything along these lines crops up again, it will be the last time. Thanks again. Story number 3. My 22F husband, 30M, wants to implement rewards and punishments to help me balance my life and improve myself. But I think it's not good for our relationship. How do I make him see that it's not good, and what alternatives can I suggest? Good morning. I'm sorry that the title reads as, "Why don't you just say no or stop?" I just wanted to clarify and say that we have something called 2-month policy between us. That means that if one of us suggests something that we think will be good for us and beneficial, we have to try it at least for 2 months. For example, one thing I suggested before was working out together and going for a run because I thought we've been out of shape for long and being more fit will help us do more fun things together. And I wanted to stop or slack off, but the 2-month policy saved it and made me keep going. So, the rewards and punishments are something my husband suggested. I started my first job out of college a few months ago, and that was after all the wedding and honeymoon stuff. So, I had been really tired, stressed, and overwhelmed in the last few months. And it had been hard for me to balance things both at work and home. So, I kept making promises to myself that I'll do one thing, like working out, cleaning, reading, etc., and end up not doing it. Or, I spend too much energy at work because I'm not used to compartmentalized work stuff and personal life internally, so I get home stressed and tired. So I haven't been able to focus on our relationship as much, or just be a good partner in general. Since I keep trying to improve that but keeps not doing things to actually do that, my husband said that he thinks that having incentives and consequences will make me actually follow through. And he said that he really thinks this will help me, and it will be our next thing to try for the next 2 months, and I should decide if I want to keep doing it or not. So basically, he set some goals and things I should do for me, and if I do them, I get rewards, and if I don't, I punished. I could be okay with that, but the rewards and punishments kind of make me feel small and kind of dehumanized. Like, rewards include more screen time, snacks, things I like in bed, etc. And he wants to punish me by spanking, taking my phone away, making me stand in the corner, or things I don't really like in bed. I tried to say that those are kind of weird and that those will make me feel small and not like a grown, independent person. Then he said that it won't work unless the rewards are straightforward, and I want to avoid the punishments. So, we've been doing that for a couple weeks, but I do not like it. And I feel silly and dumb trying to negotiate rewards and punishments. And I don't think it's good for our relationship because it's making me feel like we are not equal and he's trying to be some kind of father figure, not a husband. And I already have some insecurities with feeling like a grown-up woman and confidence, mainly because of my figures and height. I'm pretty small, but I know I've been technically doing better, but I think it's not helping me feel like a grown woman. I tried to talk to him about this and maybe make it stop, and he brings up the 2-month policy and tells me I should trust him and give this a try fully before I say no because it only has been 2 weeks. And he tells me times that he went through, even though he didn't like it, by trusting me, like the time I made him quit red meat completely. He quit for 2 months, and he said he didn't feel any differences in health, so he started eating them again but in moderation. And he's telling me that I should try it at least 2 months and decide. But I feel like I already feel like it's not good and want it to stop. But maybe I should just push through it for the next 2 months and say no to be fair and keep up with the policy we set for each other? How do I make him see this? And what are some alternatives that I can suggest to make him feel like I'm still trying and to make compromises? Thank you for your advice. Update: I'm sorry that this is not much of an update. Also, I'm sorry for apologizing again. I know I shouldn't too much. But I still wanted to give an update since so many people were concerned about me and gave me really good advice. I am a bit overwhelmed by the amount of the comments and advice I got, but I'm trying my best to read from the oldest to new, so it's taking a while to get through them all, but I am reading them all. I'm sorry that it's taking a while and I haven't made an update for days since I made a post, but it has been hard to do so because I'm at work during the day and around my husband after work. But I now know that this is more serious than I thought and is not normal. I know that, but it's still overwhelming and confusing, especially it's all new information and I love him, and I'm trying hard to come up with a way reading all the advice you've given me and looking up the resources. I'm sorry that I don't have a clear course of action to give an update, but I'm working on it. Also, I answered some of the comments, but I wanted to answer some questions that were asked a lot. How old was I when we started dating? I was 19-20. Was he my first boyfriend? Yes. Who came up with the 2-month policy? He brought that up, but I was the one to say let's try it after he told me about it. Does he have rewards and punishments too? No, he doesn't. Thank you again for the advice.
Story number 4. I, 28M, ran into my ex-wife's sister, 24F, at the store. After catching up, she asked me on a date. I have mixed feelings. What should I do? Quick background, my ex-wife is the same age as me, and I have not seen her since we divorced 3 years ago. There was nothing juicy about the divorce, just 2 kids who got married too young, too soon, and realized it too late. We divorced pretty amicably, and she ended up moving away. I did as well for a time, but I ended up coming back home last year. I had no idea what my ex was doing and didn't really care. I got along with her family until the end, although I did not know her sister that well since either we were in college or she was in college, away from us. But I obviously had met her several times and had a cordial relationship with her. Never felt any weird vibes while married to her sister. My ex was not really close with her sister, but they also did not have any ill will toward each other. Anyway, she told me that my ex is engaged and happy, which I was actually happy to hear. She said her parents are doing well, and they even asked her a little while ago if she knew what I was doing, which she didn't because I don't keep in contact with anyone from her family. Kind of wanted a clean break, you know? Me and ex, do have some mutual friends, but I don't think Riley really knows them that well. It was a nice conversation. Before we finished talking, Riley asked me if I would like to have a drink with her sometime. I thought maybe she just wanted to catch up in a better setting, more so than 2 people leaning on shopping carts. But then she said, but I understand if you don't want to go on a date with your ex-wife's sister. So it's a date. I did end up exchanging numbers with her, asking her kind of lightly how her parents would feel, and got it. They would probably be happy that I found someone they liked. I figured I would rather have the number and not use it than wonder if I should have gotten it. I don't know. I guess I was also just happy that an attractive woman asked me for my number. She did mention in our conversation, before she asked me out, that she was always surprised that her sister let such a good guy go, which I corrected her and told her it was definitely mutual, not all on my ex. Riley is very pretty, I enjoy talking to her, and I like her family. They also always liked me. If I had just run into her as a stranger and there was no history, if I'm being honest, it would have made my day to have been asked that. But I keep thinking that it's weird. Like, she's obviously a grown woman now, but she was a teenager when I started dating my ex-wife. As I said, I didn't see her all that much, so no, this is not a grooming situation. I would feel weird going to her parents, almost being like, hey, I decided to give your other daughter a try. Then how would my ex feel about it? Would it ruin her relationship with her sister? And if we got serious, I'd have to see my ex-wife at functions, which I don't care that much about, but it's still odd, you know? Then I got these intrusive thoughts like, is this my unconscious trying to make my failed marriage seem like a success? Then there's like, what if Riley had the same tendencies that made you and ex incompatible? But I feel like I'm also not being fair to Riley. Riley has a great family. She seems to have her stuff together. She was enjoyable to talk to. I feel like I could be allowing my past to throw away a potentially great partner. I don't know. I'm really confused. Help me. Edit 1. I can't post an official update yet, so here's the best I can do. I have read through your comments, taking my lashings from some, gotten some weird, creepy personal messages from others who, as one person put it, understood why I wanted to knock boots with my ex's sister. In fact, it was the creepy pro messages that actually changed my mind more than the people telling me not to go on the date, though some of you against it also made some great points. I texted Riley and told her that I don't think it is appropriate for us to go on a date. I told her that I enjoy talking to her and catching up, but that we should only be cordial if we see each other out, but nothing more. Maybe I shouldn't have said this, but I also told her that it is nothing personal against her, that she seems like a really great person, but given my history with her sister, it just isn't appropriate. She replied that she understood and respected my decision, but also said that she didn't think my ex-wife would have a problem with it, but I was steadfast and said I still don't think it's appropriate. I also learned a lot about myself here, and if you read some of my comments you might have seen this, but I'll try to summarize. I miss being a husband. I miss being in a loving marriage. I don't miss my ex-wife, but I miss what we once had, and I want that again, with someone else. I didn't know I felt that way, at least consciously, until I spoke to Riley. I think her being my ex-wife's sister brought out some feelings in me that were never unlocked by the women I went on dates with in the interim, because they were detached enough from my previous marriage that I could still repress those feelings. I didn't realize how lonely I was and how much I craved having a woman that I could come home to and not just receive love, but give it. I think I focused so much on my career and other things in my life that I buried those feelings after my divorce. Finally, call me dumb, naive, oblivious, emotionally unintelligent, etc. But I'm not a bad person and I never intended to destroy anyone's relationships. I also was not thinking about sex, thinking with my D*CK. If you see some of my replies, I didn't even think of some of the conundrums there. I was thinking with a heart that confused scar tissue with being healed. As for Riley, I don't know what her intentions were, and at this point I don't care. I am not going on that date with her. I'm going to talk to a professional about my unresolved love issues, and I want to thank everyone here for opening up my eyes, even if you were a jerk, except the person who basically accused me of being a do. You can fuck off. Edit 2. I'm going to bed. I have been up way too late with this, and drank too many beers, more than a long time. I have tried to respond as best I can. People who didn't even read the whole thing, I don't care about your opinion. People who did and offered up stuff, even if I didn't like, thanks for your input. This thing has blown up so much I'll give you all an update if anything else of note transpires. Story number 5. How do I, 27M, ask my wife, 32F, if she cheated on me without destroying our relationship if she hasn't? My wife, 32F, and I, 27M, have been together for about 7 years and married for almost 2 of those years. We are expecting our first baby in late September. We've had problems in the past when I falsely accused her of cheating that was brought on when my wife's jealous ex-boyfriend sent me her old sex tapes and screenshots of her chats after finding out that we had gotten engaged. That event almost destroyed our marriage before it even started and has definitely left a scar on our relationship, which is a reason why I am reluctant to confront her about the possibility of her cheating again without any confirmation. A few weeks ago, I started suspecting that she had cheated on me when we had gone to one of her OB appointments, and the conversation of due dates and date of conception was brought up. In my head, it wasn't quite making sense as the period of time she would have conceived is when she would have been overseas without me. Last year in mid-December, my wife went back to her hometown in France to be with her family over the Christmas and New Year's break. She was there for over a month. While she was in France, her ex-boyfriend, who also lives in the same town in France, had sent me another sex tape that I ignored at the time, believing it was another shitty attempt to ruin her life, but then later watched when I started getting paranoid after finding out the date she would have had gotten pregnant. I also have reason to believe that the video he had sent was recently taken purely based off the way she looked and certain physical details. I need to find out if she has been unfaithful, so I can make some very important decisions in my life before it's too late. How do I ask her if she has cheated on me in a way that won't blow up our marriage and family if she hasn't? What sort of approach should I take when I ask her? Update. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who commented with advice and also those people who criticized my thoughts and actions. Reading multiple perspectives about my situation helped open my narrowed view, and I think gave me a more balanced perspective. I'm not too sure how I should write this update since there's so much information that was dropped on me, and I'm not too sure to put it into words. It honestly feels like my life was pulled out from under me, and I'm not too sure how to comprehend it all at the moment. A lot of people criticized me for not telling my wife about the latest video, and a lot of you also suggested that I check the EXIF data to see what date the video was created. Following everyone's advice, I did both. I first checked the metadata to see the creation date, which showed that it was taken on the 1st of January, 2024 at 1:18 a.m. It was sent to me the 6th of January, 2024. I kept in mind that people were saying that data can easily be edited and didn't take the newfound information too seriously, even though it looked like a relatively recent video. After seeing the metadata, I sat her down on the couch to tell her about her video. I went into the conversation fully prepared with a list of things to say I had made with my therapist. I made sure not to make accusations, or even make anything I said sound like an accusation, and was 100% prepared for her to blow up at me for not telling her about it sooner. My therapist gave me a guide of how I should deliver the information and how I should attempt to give her back control of the situation by offering to show her the video, letting her watch it on her own, and deleting it in front of her when she was ready. I started by saying that I had received another sex tape from her ex, and when I received it, then I went into why I didn't tell her immediately after receiving it or after she got back from her trip. After giving my explanation, I asked her if she wanted to see the video, which she said yes to. So I gave her my phone and she pretty much immediately started the video as soon as I handed my phone over to her, which didn't give me a chance to get up and leave the room to let her watch it on her own. As soon as I heard the audio from the video, I immediately stood up and was turning to walk to a different room when she grabbed my pant leg and started profusely apologizing. I said there was nothing to apologize for as this was from before she met me and that I should be apologizing to her for keeping it from her. She asked me why I decided to tell her now, and I told her the truth about my concerns about the due date and how it wasn't quite making sense in my head, and that's when she lost it. She grabbed my hand and kept saying it was a mistake and that she wasn't thinking straight because she was drunk. My heart just dropped and I knew instantly what she meant by her repetitive ramblings. I told her to tell me what exactly happened or I'd leave immediately. Long story short, she cheated on me when she went on her trip to France with her ex that was sending me the screenshots and videos. They ended up having sex after catching up at a New Year's Eve party they were both at. They're from a small town in central France with only a population of a few thousand, and apparently, they had seen each other at the local supermarket a few days after her arriving at her hometown. My wife and her ex are from the same friendship group. They all went to the same kindergarten, primary school, middle school, and high school, which is how they ended up at the same New Year's Eve party. She also told me that her ex had admitted to hacking into her Facebook account to gain access to the sex tapes she had made shared with her other exes. Although calling what he did hacking makes it sound quite sophisticated, she hadn't changed her password since high school, and he still knew them when he got access to all her accounts. So fucking dumb. She begged me not to divorce her and tried to bargain with me, promising it would be the only time she'd ever cheat, promising that she'll be the best wife to me, letting me have sex with any and as many women I'd like, and even stooped so low as to offer sexual acts. I said I would only consider staying if she would do two things: give me her phone so I can go through her massages and get a paternity test done. She instantly agreed to the paternity test but was a bit more hesitant about handing her phone over, but eventually agreed. While looking through her phone, I found more evidence that she cheated on me on New Year's Day, as well as evidence that she had cheated me one other time from her period tracker app. She uses the app to track her for her periods and sexual activity. I just had to go to the dates where I wasn't in the same country as her and see if she had sex or not. Unfortunately for her, she was very diligent with keeping track of her sexual activities. By this point, I had already made up my mind about the relationship and just left. I'm currently staying at a hotel and will be moving into my apartment that I had been trying to rent out for a while. I've spoken to both to my solicitor and my wife and have agreed to go to the mandatory counseling in order for me to be able to go through with the divorce, which will start in October. We've also agreed to get the paternity test done after the baby is born, and I got my in-laws plane tickets to come to Australia earlier than originally planned, so they can look after their daughter.
Story number 6. During our vacation in Vegas, I, 28F, woke up at 2 a.m. to find my husband, 34M, missing, his location off, and thousands in charges from a strip club on our bank account. Where to go from here? My husband and I booked a last-minute getaway to Vegas for a couple nights. We arrived yesterday. We had tickets to see a show last night, but after a long day of drinking in the heat, I wasn't feeling well and needed to end the night early. I encouraged my husband to still go so he could enjoy his evening. So he did, and I went to sleep. 2 a.m. rolls around, and I wake up to find that he never came back to the room. The show is literally at our hotel, so I start to panic. I go to check his location. It's off. Then I text him asking where he was. He reads it and doesn't respond. I call him several times, and he sends me to voicemail. While I was trying to get a hold of him, I see there were 2 separate charges for $1,000 plus from a strip club. He didn't respond to me till nearly 3 a.m. and just texted he was on his way back. 30 minutes later, he stumbles in the room absolutely obliterated. He tries to lie and say he was just gambling down the strip, that he never went to the strip club even though the charges were literally made with Apple Pay and he hadn't lost his phone. After going through his receipts, I found he'd been at the strip club for nearly 5 hours, SN confirming that he went straight from the show and left 40 minutes after my first "Where are you?" text. I also checked all of our accounts, and if all the charges made settle as they are, he'll have spent nearly $6,000 there. He swears he didn't cheat on me and says nothing sexual happened, though I can only imagine the situations you find yourself in after 5 hours in a strip club, especially when you're intoxicated beyond comprehension. I feel like I'll never truly know what happened, and that alone is the most painful part. We flew home a day early, and I just have no idea where to go from here. We've been together for 7 years, married for 4 years in just a couple months. As far as I was aware, we're in a great place in our marriage, and there haven't been any issues with infidelity in the past. This is completely out of character. I'm absolutely crushed and deeply disappointed. He was reckless with our money, with my trust, with our marriage, and it really fucking hurts. The fact we were on a solo trip together, and instead of coming back to me, or doing literally anything else, he chose to go to a strip club. I would love any insight plus advice from those who've gone through something similar with their partners. Thank you for reading. Story number 7. How do I, 31F, tell my close friend, 35F, that her adult-only parties are offending people? First of all, I would love a real adult-only party where adults can talk and have conversations without kids interfering. She ain't doing that. She is having a whole party for everyone to focus on her kids only. I need to know how to address this with her. This happened 2 times so far. The first time, We pretty much all assumed that she had to have planned for childcare that must have backed out or something, but since we weren't sure, we didn't ask her. I think everyone felt awkward believing they were paying babysitters for an adult night and then having to have her kids at the dinner table, and them very actively part of the evening needing to be entertained, 2 young kids. Then, it happened again. She sent out events for a dinner party in the evening with adults only on the invitation. Then, when we got there, she had set up all these kids' games everywhere. She arranged the night around everyone kind of playing with her kids, and I could tell everyone felt awkward because people just wanted to have an adult night talking, but she had promised the kids that everyone would participate in the games they had set up and asked everyone if they wouldn't mind playing with the kids. I know that several people who attended the last event were very bothered by having to do this. People were whispering on the side about how they had to pay a babysitter for the night and would have rather bring their kid along, and the kids could have just played games together if it's a family event. We barely ever pay a sitter, so I was kind of confused about why I had to spend my very limited babysitter funds on a night that I didn't even get to talk much with other adults because the kids were for sure the center of the evening. She even stopped everyone to gather around to look at the kids' recent art projects and tell stories and sing. Is this normal in other circles? What would you do if this was your friend? If I do say something, how would you explain this so that the person isn't mad or feels like you just don't like their kid? She was mad because everyone left early and she had catered the event, but I think people didn't want to stay and preferred to just go back to their kids because they felt a little disrespected by the way things went. People are saying they don't want to hang out with her anymore. What to do? Update. Hi, everyone. I never expected so many people would have been interested in this situation, but I think it helps me feel vindicated that the situation was just as strange as I had perceived it to be. I wanted to wait for the kids to get back into school so we could discuss it in person. And luckily I didn't even have to bring it up because someone else did bring it up to her, and she was eager to tell me that people were mad and she didn't know what the problem is with what she did. I was able to get through to her. I'll call her Katie in this post, and also understand her perspective, understand, not agree with, which I'll try to explain here the best I can. I cannot remember every detail of the conversation but can paraphrase all the key parts. She had been upset because one of our friends, Molly, was taking care of her toddler while Katie's kid kept trying to show her something. Katie noticed this and felt bad that her daughter just wants to share things with people she thinks of as her family/aunts. We are just friends, but the kids call each other aunts and each other's kids cousins. So she wanted to build a stronger relationship between her kids and her close friends. She thought that us spending time with her kids away from our kids would be the way for us to show her kids better attention. This is especially important to her because she is an only child. Her parents are dead. Her husband is an only child and his parents are dead. Her children have no biological family. She is worried about what will happen to them if she died, etc. Her mom died when she was a teenager and she feels anxious about her health. She doesn't feel that other people's kids need this same type of bond with her because our kids have biological aunts, uncles, and cousins. She thinks they should be able to go spend time with their biological family and assumed that we were all sending our kids to our family and not paying a babysitter. She has no understanding of what it's actually like and romanticizes it. She was shocked to find that my siblings don't just drop their lives to babysit my kid. People who have siblings still pay babysitters, and did for her parties. She feels that she paid for all the food and wine, and that alone should cover the expense of the babysitter even if we did pay one. She knows that paying a sitter plus dinner would still cost more since she catered everything from a very expensive place, and we should have just been happy to get free food and drink, and if playing some kids' game is the price for that, it's not a bad price. Essentially, she argued at first that if someone pays for everything, they can decide, and if we want a different type of gathering, we can foot the bill and throw that gathering. Now, how I handled this. That last note did eventually change to a more understanding perspective as I explained more and more about how, even though she is technically right, she cannot maintain strong friendships with this mindset. You cannot provide meals for people with strings attached and deception involved. We didn't know until we got there, and expect us to love it. She can do whatever she likes, but people can also end a friendship if they like, so she is free to do it but not free from the consequences of it. I also was very clear to her that if her goal is to get stronger bonds for her kids, the way to do that is to love and bond with our kids and include them. That part seemed to be totally unexpected to her. I had to explain that people will be so upset by the fact that she isn't including their kids in kid events or isn't accepting that a parent needs to take care of their own kid first before focusing on hers, that they won't even want to be part of her family because that isn't what a family is. My sister doesn't expect me to leave my kid behind and be only with my nephews. My sister would never tell me to not bring my daughter to a family event because she loves my daughter, and that makes me love her and my nephews even more. I had to explain all this. Lastly, she is rich and did grow up rich, and as the only child, she admits that she struggles to see things from other perspectives or to consider others' feelings, and she has to make a conscious attempt to really see outside of her own wants and needs. She said she even talks about this in therapy, and that's why she goes out of her way to do nice things for us. I put some examples of her acts of kindness in the original post, because that's her way of trying to actively be a generous and caring person. She did cry as expected, especially when she was talking about her kids not having any family and her mom and dad dying, and I'm very glad I did not mention it at the parties like everyone suggested, because I would have never wanted her to do that in front of people. It goes deep, and she needs therapy to continue working on it. Overall, she did come around to the realization that she needs to alter her way of thinking about it and do things differently if she wants to achieve what she claims. She continued to reiterate how much her kids love me and how much she does love my kid too. She said she wants to do things the right way. She just is frustrated because what makes sense to her doesn't make sense to other people, but she accepts that it's her who will need to fix her way of thinking. A lot of crying and some arguing, but overall, it does appear that we are still friends. We hugged, and she said she is going to do something nice for everyone and their kids. If anyone still has questions about specific things said, I can try to answer in comments. Appreciate everyone's help. I felt much better going into it knowing that I was not wrong for standing my ground on this. Story number 8. Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother-in-law out of my house because she won't stop complaining about my daughter's name? Both me, 28F, and my husband, 30M, are from Latin America. We moved to the UK shortly after we had our eldest, 5M. Our daughter, who turns 1 in April, was born here. My mother-in-law, 60s, and my husband's older brother, 37M, neither of whom have met our daughter before, are flying over for her birthday. BIL wanted to get a hotel room for himself, and MIL doesn't speak any English, so we decided to have her stay at our place instead of leaving her alone in a foreign country. Years ago, when I was pregnant with my son, my husband and I made the mistake of revealing his name to our families. My MIL spent the next months complaining about it. She'd send us lists of name suggestions, look up bad historical figures with the same name as the one we'd chosen, and just generally say it was awful. She didn't stop until our son was born and the name was on his birth certificate. So for my second pregnancy, we decided to keep our daughter's name a secret until after her birth. We figured that not knowing her name until it was unchangeable would stop MIL from complaining. We were wrong. Our daughter's name is Cecilia. Minutes after she was born, my MIL called my husband and asked, "You know Cecilia means blind, right?" Almost a year later, she hasn't stopped complaining. If it's not because of the meaning, it's because it's ugly, long, or an old lady name. There have been occasions in which my husband sent pictures of her to his family's group chat, and his mom replied with stuff like, "How cute. Too bad her name is Cecilia." It genuinely feels like my daughter is being bullied. Whenever we talk to my MIL, which has been happening less and less lately for this exact reason, she has a new complaint. Up until now, the main reason I was able to kind of tune it out was because she hadn't complained to us in person or in front of our children. But she'll be here in less than 2 weeks, and I'm absolutely certain she'll continue her crusade at our home. I don't want to hear it. I don't want my son to hear it, and I don't want my baby's first birthday to be ruined by grandma's bitching. So a couple months ago, my husband and I called his mom. We told her she could no longer stay with us and to ask BIL to help her get a hotel room. We also told her the reasons behind our decision. MIL cried on the phone and has called us several times since. She always either apologizes, calls us dramatic, or accuses us of alienating her from her grandkids. Throughout all this, she continues to insist she has the right to dislike our daughter's name and still hasn't booked a hotel room. My BIL agrees she's being a dick, but is upset we told her she can no longer stay at our place. He's accusing us of forcing an elderly woman to stay alone in a foreign country even though we're perfectly capable of housing her. He's also mad that after promising for months that MIL could stay at our house, we're retracting our offer. This whole situation has been exhausting, and I'm starting to worry I might be overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Update. Hey, everyone. It's been a while since I posted, so I want to give you an update. I'll try to be brief. For the next couple of weeks after my first post, MIL continued her attempts to convince us to let her stay with us, but still refused to book a hotel room. My husband and I decided to speak with BIL again. He told us that the main reason why he wanted to get a hotel room for himself was to explore the city on his own, but could understand why we didn't want MIL to stay with us anymore. Eventually, he agreed to help her get a different room at the hotel he'd stay in. From what I gather, he also spent the weeks leading up to the visit telling his mother that if she tried complaining about Cecilia's name at any point, he would call a taxi to send her back to the hotel. Cecilia's birthday went off without a hitch, except for the fact that MIL immediately tried to give her a nickname. For a few hours, she kept calling her Lila. She was doing so behind our backs, and my husband and I didn't realize it until our son came to ask us if Grandma knew Cece's name. My BIL offered to call the taxi, but we decided to brush it off. Later, my husband pulled MIL aside and said that if she ever tried to complain about either of our children again, she wouldn't get to visit us anymore. She behaved herself until she and BIL flew back home, and we haven't heard any complaints from her since. I'm very satisfied with this outcome. Though I'm still worried she will complain about my kids again in the future, I now know that we have my husband's brother by our side, which will greatly help us navigate our relationship with their mother. Also, kudos to those who brought up Simon and Garfunkel's Cecilia. Though I love that one, our girl was actually named after a song by Brazilian singer Chico Buarque. I couldn't find a video with English subtitles, but I highly recommend checking it out. Story number 9. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he shouldn't be upset when my daughter said that her uncle would be the one to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day? Note: using fake names. And please do be kind, English is not my first language. I, F46, got pregnant with my daughter Sarah, F26, when I was in college. My parents and my then boyfriend's parents pushed us to marry, which we did. My late husband unfortunately passed away a week after our daughter's second birthday because of a heart complication that we did not even know he had. It was a very hard time for me, and I went through a very bad depression. 4 years later, I met my now husband Robert, M46, on a blind date set up by a friend. He was one of my best friend's cousin. We hit it off and got married a year later. Even when we were dating, he was very hands-on with my daughter, and it did not take too long for my daughter to call him Papa. Even until we got married, and when I got pregnant 2 years into the marriage and gave birth to twins, M17 and F17, he still acted like a father to Sarah. She was even included in my husband's family reunions and the cousin group photo shoot that my in-laws organize every Christmas. Things took a bit of a turn when Sarah turned 18. She started calling him by his first name, and both Robert and I were taken aback with the change of attitude she was displaying. I asked Robert what was that about, but he only shrugged, not knowing the reason to. I thought things would go back to normal, but she has been consistent in calling him by his first name, so I asked her if we could talk. Robert asked if he could join, which Sarah agreed. To make it short, my daughter overheard my husband talking about a Father's Day trip to his friend who owns an hostel. His friend asked him if he forgot to include Sarah since my husband only asked him to prepare 3 bedrooms. My husband replied that he planned this trip for his real children only. It wouldn't make sense if Sarah was in the trip since he wasn't her real father. This made Sarah feel betrayed and hurt because she saw him as her real dad, even if she knew he was her stepdad. My husband tried to explain to her that though he loves her as a father, his love for the twins were different since they were his real children. I wanted to just shut him up because he was overusing the word real. But Sarah told us to leave her room. What made that day even more depressing was that this day was her last week with us before she leaves the country for college. Since then, every time she comes home, Sarah acts like nothing happened but continues to call Robert by his first name. Robert didn't want to add fuel to the fire and just tolerated it. And now, few years since then, my daughter announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend. We were very happy for her as they have been dating since they were still college freshmen. 2 weeks before their wedding, we were wondering who would be walking Sarah down the aisle. I assumed it would be Robert since I thought we have moved past that incident, but no. My daughter scoffed at me when I told her about Robert walking her down the aisle. She said, I thought it was obvious that Uncle Greg, my late husband's brother, would be the one to do that. Besides, I'm not his real daughter. It wouldn't make sense if he walked me down the aisle. I did not talk back, instead apologized for my ignorance and told her that I'll speak with Robert about it, since he also assumed he'd be the one to walk her down the aisle. When I told him what Sarah said, he was pissed. But I politely reminded him of the incident years ago, which made him even more upset. He said that it was long time ago and that Sarah should move on. I, who was offended for my daughter, told him that he shouldn't be upset since he doesn't see her as his real child anyway. He then got teary-eyed and told me to not speak to him. He still attended Sarah's wedding but looked visibly down. We still aren't on good terms and have been pretending in front of relatives. My daughter does not know about this and I want to keep it that way. But nevertheless, it's been a week since my daughter's wedding and Robert is still upset. He only talks to me about the twins and household stuff, but beyond that, he keeps everything to himself. I feel really bad and think he is acting this way because of me. So, with that being said, am I the a-hole? Sarah's reply: This is not my Reddit account. It's my cousin's bio father's side. I apologize for any grammar mistakes and spelling errors. My cousin sent me this post while my husband and I were packing some stuff for our honeymoon earlier, and she thought it was my mom. My cousin is one of my go-to people, so she knows every single drama in my life. We are really tight. I was skeptical at first since I would never have thought of my mother using Reddit. It's just too random. Until I read the overheard part of the post, it just brought back very good memories, hee. On top of that, I noticed that the fake names used are based on the first letter of our real names. It gave me the confirmation that this is my mom. I just want to say that I don't appreciate that some of you are calling my mom an a-hole. But I also don't think it's your fault since mom left a lot of details. After I left for college in the States, a lot of things happened. My cousin, the owner of this account, was the one filling me up with updates. So, mom and Robert had a huge fight regarding me. Plus, Robert always came home late and drunk from the cockpit. The twins, well, they were shielded from the drama because they were children. They kind of separated for like a year. My mom went to live with her parents. I was always in contact with mom, and she always asked for my whereabouts. You know, normal mom stuff. She also kind of filled me in about her separation from Robert. I actually felt guilty because I knew it was because of me. Their biggest fight was when Uncle Greg, I will be using the fake names mom used to not add confusion, confronted Robert about the incident because when I arrived at my university dorm, I called to him sobbing and told about everything. Uncle Greg is the typical, cool single uncle and has always been protective of us cousins, so when he learned about it, he went on full Papa Bear mode for me. Robert was kind of mad that he was getting into our business. Mom told Robert that Uncle Greg, actually my cousins and I calls him Dada because he's really like our second parent, also has a say in this since he's family, but Robert wasn't happy about it. So yeah, that insinuated a big argument that almost led to Robert and Uncle Greg having a fist fight. They were already throwing unkind words to each other, and everyone was just emotional. When I learned about what happened, like I mentioned, I felt guilty and bad. So I sent Robert an email since he doesn't use Messenger. In the email, I told him that he should apologize to mom and make things right for the twins. I did not receive any response from him, but eventually, he and mom made up after a year. I was quite happy because I really didn't want to ruin my mom's marriage. I love my mom so much, and I'd do anything for her. You might be wondering why my mom did not initiate divorce. Well, first of all, divorce is still illegal in my country. Second, annulment is extremely expensive, and even if we were kind of well off, my mom's a physical therapist and a teacher at a university, while Robert used to be a public accountant up until I was 16 and owns a commercial space. Their pockets would have hurt, and annulment takes a lot of time to process. Today, I reached out to them, and I told them that I wanted a proper conversation because this has been long overdue. I think we all need some closure. I do want to note that I have moved on, but forgive? I don't think so. It pisses me off that Robert thinks I can just move on, forgive, and forget. It's hard to think that this was the man I used to call Papa. What's even more sad is that I still see him as my Papa. The pain I felt that day, and when I started calling him by his first name. I even wanted to major in accountancy because of him. He was my role model. There were a lot of moments where I just wanted to go back to that day and pretend I did not hear anything and let it slide. Then maybe I'd still call him Papa. But I would be an idiot for thinking that because no matter what, the damage has already been done. So yeah, I am contemplating if I would update you guys on our talk tomorrow. I have texted my mom not to look over the comments here because some of you are just brutal. Sorry, I just don't want my mom to feel bad. Yes, I want to add that both my mom and Robert paid for my college tuition. I did not get any loans or anything. Student loans are uncommon in our country. Parents are always the ones paying. I'm actually grateful that Robert helped pay, but that still doesn't remove the pain. My husband has been really patient and supportive. Little trivia, we were classmates in high school. I was the talkative girl in class, you know, social butterfly, and he was one of those goofballs, and we actually fought a lot back then, and we eventually developed feelings for each other throughout freshman year. We were surprised that we went to the university. We were both catching up on each other's lives, and yeah, the rest was history. OOP replied to this. I would like to thank everyone for your advice and comments. My daughter found and commented on my post, and we will be talking about this tomorrow. She had just messaged me earlier. I was feeling tired today and could not sleep, so I was able to write this. I also want to thank the people for calling me out. I know I'm not the best mother, but I try. But yes, I am an a-hole for tolerating him. I don't know what will happen in our talk tomorrow, but I do want everyone to have closure. I also want to add that my daughter and I do not have a strained relationship. She did not want me to walk down the aisle because then Robert would be pushing her to let him walk her too, since he thought we're a package. Story number 10. My F47, husband M46, doesn't want me to join an orchestra because he thinks I would be abandoning my responsibilities. Would this make sense? I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 since I lost my job during COVID while on maternal leave. I decided to temporarily leave my career as a web dev team lead so that I can focus on the children and, in the end, making our lives easier so we don't have to rush through the after-work grind. Staying at home with the kids was both extremely rewarding and extremely tiring. There's also very little appreciation other than thank you for supper or thank you for washing the clothes. Last year, for my mental health, I needed to have something for myself, and that's when I decided to take up playing cello. I've been more than loving it. It's a huge passion. I wake up in the morning wanting to practice, but of course, I only practice once my chores are done. I've joined a local online community group of cellists that have been wonderfully supportive. The leader of the group has invited me on many occasions to join their orchestra, which will require 3 to 4 hours, one Saturday mornings out of 2, located 33 kilometers away from where I live. My husband was totally shocked at how far it was. So I tried finding another group closer to where I live, but I can't really find anything else. So this morning, I told my husband that I really want to join the orchestra. He got annoyed and said it was too far and that I would add thousands of meterage to our car. So I said I can organize a carpool. Then he got angry, said that he is disgusted by my unilateral decision to join, that I would abandon all my responsibilities like I do now when I practice daily, that it doesn't fit with swimming courses and ski courses. I can make it fit. How can I just drop everything for myself? I know in my heart that I don't neglect my duties. I am the only one who cooks, cleans, helps kids with homework, deals with kids all the time, organize everything the kids need for their various courses, ski, swim, kung fu, etc. Oh. In the past, I even did the little chores that he was supposed to do himself when I was tired of waiting for him to do them. Never once did I complain. Did I approach it the wrong way? He said he would have liked me to ask his opinion. Am I asking too much time for myself? I already practice on my own 1 to 2 hours almost daily. Introspectively, maybe I need just a break from my family to find myself. Shouldn't I be able to find that when I go back to work? Little side note, I told him I probably won't join because of his reaction. He's all happy now, yet I'm feeling dejected. Update. First of all, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to read my post, and all of you who has replied with concern. I never thought of seeking so much attention. Being the introverted person I am, I felt kinda uneasy. But I have to admit, in all honesty, it felt really good to be supported like this. I will add that, although I do most of the housework, he does help. And when he does help and I thank him, he mentions that at least he feels like he's contributing. So, yesterday I dropped a word to my husband, asking him to really think about what I'm asking, and that I thought that his reaction was a bit excessive. Later, he called me back to tell me that he was sorry that he reacted that way and that it was a knee-jerk reaction to what I had said. He said there was no reason to stop me from going, really. It's just that he finds that I've been lagging behind with my household tasks and that correlation is not causation, but he had the impression that my cello playing was a factor. I told him that the kids are home _ all the time _ and that it's 5 for kiddos plus 1 working husband, against 1 when it comes to keeping the house clean. The main floor is always clean, the washrooms are washed, I've been doing some decluttering here and there. I'm so not up to date with my laundry because I'm exhausted. Not to mention that it's all fine and dandy when we go camping, but who preps everything for camping? The who cleans the tent, washes and dries the tarpaulin afterwards? Does all the camping laundry? I think it's unrealistic for him to think I can do all that without feeling overwhelmed. That cello playing has been my release as opposed to the cause of my lagging behind. It's what keeps me sane and prevents me from breaking down and strangling him/Jay. He said there's no real reason for me to not join, but that, in the end, I will be dumping whatever I do on Saturday morning on him, that he would have to do what I was supposed to do. But in my head, I know for sure he won't do anything until I get back anyways. I told him that he could take this opportunity to play Civilization 6 with the kids without feeling guilty. Whatever he chooses, I'll support him. But I'm joining my orchestra. Smiley face. Again, thank you all for reminding me of my value and who I am. Virtual hugs to all. Second update. Holy guys, I still can't catch up with all the messages. Okay, to answer some questions I briefly saw. Yes, I am happy to go, and if you knew me, you'd kinda know why. I'm very content with very little. I grew up with a broken family, almost always alone, so when I get something I really like, it's like Christmas with sprinkles for me. I'm also usually super positive and cheery, and I'm trying to coax that person out again after years of feeling less than. I was in therapy for almost 5 years, and it helped immensely. I had to stop for financial reasons and wish I could get back into it, but my cello ing has been eating away at my savings teehee. My kids are 14, 11, 9, and 5. They do chores before having electronics and all, but they are small chores. They help me with laundry. They cook their own breakfast and lunch, and put away their mess with a bit of reminding. We are in the process of selecting which toys to keep, so they've been absorbed by it. And as a kid, I had to raise myself, so I kinda lost a bit of my childhood. I kinda want my kids to have fun memories of their summer, so I keep their chores to basic stuff. I mean, with 4 kids in the house, it's constantly telling them to pick up after themselves, or constantly playing middlewoman between squabbling siblings. So they still have quite some stuff to deal with. Yes, I am aware that he is a bit egocentric. We have a dynamic that fosters this whole interaction. I need to put my needs first, and I thought I had it down last spring, but looks like my self-doubt is creeping back. It's hard because I want to be attentive to his concerns and not brush them away. Thanks to y'all, I snapped out of it and am asserting myself again. I'm looking forwards to going back to work. But it's my son's 3rd year in high school and apparently it will step up a notch. It's also my eldest daughter's entrance exams to some exclusive schools this September-October, so I want to be there for both of them. I'll see how that goes after the first semester. If all goes well, I will start looking for a job. Do I see he's a bad husband? Ouch, tough question. No, I didn't see it that way. I see we need to both work on this. I need to call him out when he's being an ass and controlling. He does have a caring side. Like when he brings me my iron pill in the morning because he knows I have to wait a whole hour before eating after I take them. It's so foreign for me to think that someone would be happy for me at their expense. Maybe that's another issue I have to take to my therapist when I see her again. Story number 11. My 19F boyfriend, 22M, set conditions on me having to earn him back. What would you guys do in this situation? I, 19F, have been with my boyfriend, 22M, for about 4 years now. We're both from New York. I was born and raised here while he moved here from a Middle Eastern country when he was 10. This becomes important later on. However, I'm also from an ethnic family, from a similar culture to him, although I wasn't raised with any importance on culture. So, when we first started dating, everything was good, but he was very much against the idea that I would present myself as a feminist and said he would convert me from a feminist to someone who doesn't identify as that. That was fine because I have my own identity and I took it as a joke, but he didn't give up telling me why it's wrong to be a feminist. It was pretty lighthearted at first, but somehow along the years, it got pretty severe. One time, around 1 year back, he told me that if I didn't denounce being a feminist right then and there that he would leave me, so of course, to save my relationship, I did. It kinda broke my heart, but I moved on from that. A little while after that, we were having another argument on call. So in our cultures, mine not so much, but in his, this is more common. There are some men that marry 4 women at the same time, and I absolutely consider that cheating. I'm very vocal about how against that I am, and we were arguing over that. This was about 2 years back, but I can't forget it. I said it's cheating. That's all I said, and in return he called me an ungrateful, which still hurts me so bad to this day. He cursed at me some more and told me that if I didn't take back what I said that he would break up with me. I was in tears and I ended up doing what he asked. There was also a time where he didn't let me speak to my best friend for 6 months, and every time I think back to that time, I don't remember a second of it, but I remember exactly how I felt. I panic every single time. I was so depressed and had absolutely no one to talk to. There have been other times that we've had fights. So, for example, he's not okay with me wearing leggings. I was going back to my home country 2 years back, and it was the middle of August, so my mom asked me to put leggings on. I did, and when he found out, he didn't speak to me for a week. I also am in the same engineering team at college as his best friend, so this one day, he came to visit us both. The three of us were just hanging out, and I was contributing to the conversation, but after his friend left, he got insanely mad at me, telling me that if his friends are around, that I need to simply back and speak when spoken to, and that I embarrassed him in front of his friend by joking around. He once compared me to his friend's girlfriend, saying that she does all his assignments for him while he has to ask me to do his assignments, because he's on his engineering internship right now, so he asks me to do his work. The difference is, she's an English major and I'm an engineering major, so I tried to do his assignments, but I was already so bombarded with my own. Another time, he asked me to pick him up on a pretty cold day, and I was on my way, but I lost signal, so no data and no way to call him. Took a wrong turn and my GPS stopped working. I was kinda lost and ended up being 40 minutes late, and I do have a habit of being late to places, so I kinda understand why he was so mad. When I got there, he was very mad at me. He was in my car screaming at me while I cried, and I had to do everything I could to make him stay and not leave. Fast forward to early July this year, he was going through my phone and saw that I texted my male cousins on Insta as well as a 17-year-old kid that's going to be coming to my college this year and asked to meet up because he wanted some guidance on the courses and getting around, to which I said sure. He blew up worse than I've ever seen and kicked me out of his car, telling me that he needs a break from me for a month. He would text me good morning and good night, and that's about it, but he still met me on the weekends for, well, YK. He said he needed to think about what he wanted to do after what I'd just done. Well, that brings us here. About 3 weeks ago, he met me and told me he thought about it, but that I wouldn't like it. He said that if I want to stay with him, that I have to earn him back on the free market. So, if he likes someone, he's free to go after them and that he would evaluate me every quarter, so every school semester. He said that he would have my Insta, but I wouldn't be able to have his just because of the condition of having to earn him back. His other requirements include me learning to cook, me being more disciplined, including me finishing a painting for him that I've been working on for 2 years, which I swear I'm trying, but the art block is really getting to me, and me putting on a headscarf, which I never thought I would ever do at such a young age, but I feel like I have to for him now. I just feel so hurt at this condition. I admit, I'm not entirely innocent either. I became really depressed around July last year and started being very cold and distant with everyone in my life, and he's still very hurt over that, so I get it. I'm just not sure if I'm the one at fault. While I was depressed, I would sit in my room for hours staring at my wall, and because of that I wouldn't be able to reply to him, which made him be hurt and mad, so I get it. I failed 3 classes as well, which is so weird for me because I've been an A student my entire life, but I am an engineering student, and it's killing me. I'm someone that grew up reading romance books, and I always wanted a very romance book type of love, and he's just been so dry with me ever since that day in July. He never says he loves me anymore. I get why, but it hurts. I know I screwed up, but I can't figure out who's in the wrong. All my friends tell me I've been gaslit, but I don't know. He's also very caring at times. He buys me chocolates and birthday presents and gives me encouragement when I need it. But sometimes I also need his words to know that, sad face, he comes from a broken home, parents fighting all the time, while I come from a very, very privileged background, and he says that this is something that gets to my head, so I just don't know anymore. I don't know if I've been wrong this entire time, or if I'm being gaslit. I genuinely don't know anymore, and I've been crying every single night for 2 months now because I'm just so lost. I don't know who to tell. If I tell my family or friends, it would be my perspective they'd be hearing, so of course they'd be on my side. What if my mind is screwing with me and I'm the one in the wrong? If I am, please tell me. I'm not even sure if I'm remembering or interpreting things right anymore. I don't know if my mind is screwing with me or not at this point. I just needed to get it off my chest. Edit. I forgot to mention, one of his other conditions to me staying with him is learning his language, which is turning out to be very difficult for me, and I feel like my efforts just aren't appreciated. Edit 2. I should clarify, he does say that he would never be disloyal to me when it comes to multiple wives. We are able to put a condition forbidding that in the marriage contract, and when I told him I would, he kind of flipped a bit and said I shouldn't need to do that if I trust him, and that it's disrespectful. I talked to my parents about it, who are absolutely in favor of me putting that clause in, My boyfriend wants to get engaged this year, and I do too, but I guess I'm not gonna receive the dreamy proposal I always dreamed of, uneasy face. He'll just come to ask my parents for my hand, and there's no way I would get married without it, but he said if I put it in, he'll put a clause saying I always have to wear a headscarf or else he'll divorce me. I don't get it. How can cheating be equivalent to having a headscarf on? He says that I'm a good girlfriend, but not wife material yet. Update: thank you for all your comments. It really means a lot to me. Love. A lot of people have been asking me how I'd react if my sister or friend said all this to me about their relationship, and TBH I'd be furious. But the only thing is, what if I keep remembering everything wrong and my own mind is screwing with me? What if I'm just victimizing myself without even knowing and making him out to be the bad guy? That's what I'm afraid of. Update 2. I want to thank you all for your comments, and it really meant a lot to me. I needed to hear all that. I've been so anxious lately, and it's been giving me heart palpitations. I do realize that before I can do anything else, I need to find the true me I've buried somewhere, so I'm going to try and heal myself first. As for my boyfriend, I had a talk with him about how much his condition of earning me back on the open market hurt me. He bought me chocolates and told me that while at the moment there is no one else, there might be, and that the reason he said that to me is because I get stuff done under pressure, and he wanted to pressurize me. I'm not sure what's going on anymore, but I do know that before I do anything I need to find myself. A couple people asked whether my family and friends know. My younger sister knows that my friends don't like him, and my best friend is very against this. She's been with me ever since middle school, and she was here for it all. She says that if I marry this guy, she's going to tell my parents everything, which I think is quite telling of an outsider's view of how I've been treated. She's really been my rock. He has met my parents a few times and mostly spent his time talking politics with my dad, so my parents aren't really aware of what's going on, and they, especially my dad, really like him. They like that he makes good money and seems to know where he's headed in life, but if I told my mom and dad even 10% of what I wrote here, I know they'd never let me see him again because I am hurt, and the most important thing for my parents is my happiness. They've raised me to be strong, and I feel like I'm disappointing them. This just brought back other little things in my mind. Like, how the week after he kicked me out of his car, he met me and went through my phone, which I'm okay with as I have nothing to hide. But also, that day I baked cookies for him. I baked a batch of 6 and I accidentally burned 2. My family ate 1 each, and I saved the one that was left for him, not having any myself, because I wanted him to have it. It broke my heart how he didn't appreciate it, but instead told me how stingy it was of me to bring him 1 cookie. It kinda shattered me cause I really did pour all my heart into it. Sad face. A couple people asked me whether he'd let me work, and he's very against it. He makes good money and is also an engineer. He says he prefers me to stay home, and that since I want to work so bad after we have kids, if he feels that I'm not giving them enough time, he'll make me stop working. My mom is an engineer and my dad is a doctor, and he says that because they both work, I was neglected. That's not true at all. I have the most amazing parents, and I'm so eternally grateful for them, but he's hellbent on telling me that I've been neglected. Also other little things, like I was breaking out a while back, and he would keep telling me that it's because I'm unhygienic and don't wash my face. I tried to explain that it's not because of that, but he's just so hellbent on it. It hurts. Not to mention the fact that whenever I break out or something like that, he always points it out, uneasy face. I get that he's a very honest and blunt person, but it sorta chips away at my confidence. I was pretty excited to have learned a bit of his language already, and I called him and told him that I was so proud of myself for it, and I asked him, "How are you?" In it to which he simply said, "Yeah, that's not impressive, bruh. Even my friends can say that, sure." It hurts. I think I'm trying, but it hurts when my efforts aren't appreciated. All I know is that I need to find myself again. I stayed in NYC for him instead of leaving for college. I did so much, but I don't feel loved anymore. Especially when he told me that once we have kids, he would let our son go off to college. But daughter only if she had brothers in that place, or else he'd go with her. I want my children to have the freedom and love my parents have given me, and I want my children to have the happiness that my parents have given me. I couldn't imagine making my daughter be a victim to all this. I look at my mom and dad, and I just wish he loved me the way my dad loves my mom/3. One last thing, I had a statue of David by Michelangelo on my desk which he said I had to break and throw away LOL, and that if he saw it again, he was done with me. So there you go. If you are still with me, do like and comment your suggestions. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out the latest post from us. Also, follow us on our Insta at @vegetablepie for daily stories. Till then, see you on the next one.